I think that the USU has a lot of scope to do a lot of really good things and to have a very positive impact on our student experience. Whether that's doing things like improving support for clubs and societies, generally producing a student life that is more vibrant, indirectly supporting student mental health. I think the USU has a lot of opportunity here, especially as we recover from COVID, to do a lot of good. Nope, I'm an independent. I initially, in 2019, was involved with Colleges for SRC before I then found out that it was actually a shell organization for some of the Liberal candidates on campus. I set up Engineers for SRC with a bunch of other engineers who wanted to be more involved. Looking at something like climate change, I think that's just a scientific fact. Science says that we should be doing as much as we can, as quickly as we can, while ensuring that we have a just recovery. At our university scale, I think that should be things like the university funding a lot more initiatives that support students, directly acting on some of the more progressive things that students are saying. That would indicate that my politics are more progressive, but to me it's about doing the most good in the most effective way while being the most fair to people. I do think that the USU has a fundamental mandate to be taking some of those issues that would have an objectively negative impact on students and fighting against them in whatever forums that they represent us in. So those are things like climate change, like the education bill last year, like 12-week semesters, which was thankfully voted down at the academic board very recently. Whether that inherently makes it a political organization, I'm not entirely sure, but I think the USU should be taking a more principled stance on some of those things. No, I wouldn't refuse to work with anyone. I pride myself on being someone who can work with a very broad variety of people. If there are any fundamental differences, then I'd work to overcome those. When it comes to supporting someone for the USU presidency, I'd want to know the ideas that they have, the things that they want to change. I'd love to have those conversations before locking myself into supporting an individual. I've been a fan of what Belinda Thomas has been doing in some of the revitalization of campus life. For example, bringing live music to Manning, and all the other campus life things. I do not think that the board has done enough to financially prioritize things like clubs and societies, and would like to have seen the board being more collaborative and communicative with students. I would personally have liked to have seen more collaboration with clubs and societies, more representation in some of the forums that the USU has the opportunity to engage with, like university executive level committees. I think Irene has done the best that she can to navigate the very treacherous waters of COVID. I've been noticing that Andrew Mills has been the one attending a lot of meetings that I've been having with the other faculty society presidents and with some of the university management, and would like to have seen Irene there as well. Before ever considering whether cutting staff is an option, staff need to be consulted. Cutting staff is an extremely problematic step that would only be taken under extreme financial duress. Now the USU is back to 100% staff hours, which I think is a very good thing, and would not like to see the USU cutting any staff hours again. For students at university, and we just want to have a bit of fun on campus, whether that's continuing things like the live music at Herman's, having more large events at Manning, and meaningfully involving students and student organizations, like having DJ Society DJing at Manning. I would love for the USU to be working with students more so that we can use their wonderful spaces, making their venues available, making booking easier for students to conduct. Would like to figure out how to better support students at those satellite campuses. We have an additional campus that's emerged from COVID, and that's a virtual campus where students are engaging with their uni remotely. Try to provide events that are engaging, hybrid events that are not making students in the Zoom feel like they're secondary to what's happening in person. I've had a lot of interesting insights through the SRC exec, where we've only ever gone in camera to discuss really sensitive things like staff wages or staff concerns. Other than that, I don't think in camera should be used for any reasons. Things like board meeting minutes should be made rapidly and readily available to students so that we can know what the board is up to. Ultimately, the board is advocating on behalf of students. They should be able to be held accountable. I would love to put up posts just containing a simple monthly or half-semesterly report on what I've personally been doing on board. And whoever is elected to the presidency, I would encourage them to do something similar to what the SRC president has done for at least the past 2 years, which is publishing a weekly president's report. With the hopefully incoming secretary, I would advocate for them to release board meeting minutes as quickly as possible. I would also ensure that they are inviting student media. I think student media is an important part of the accountability and transparency process that the USU definitely should be engaging with. I take fiduciary duties very seriously. I know that there was an instance in 2016 of Tom Rowe, the VP at the time, leaking confidential information. I would first work to consider what the issue is and whether it can be resolved within the USU's internal mechanisms. If it's not resolved within the USU and the issue is serious enough of a criminal nature, then I definitely will consider what is in the best interest of students. I do not think that any student organization should have a surplus. If the USU were to make a profit this year, I would personally be pretty disappointed. I would like to see that money being put back into USU initiatives and clubs and societies, which, given the recent decreases to their funding caps, are not thriving. I think the events-based model that is what we previously operated under was not particularly equitable for societies that were not running events. For example, societies that were engaging in technical projects. They wouldn't run events, they wouldn't be able to get the kind of support from the USU that they needed to run those projects. So I do like the new grants-based system, but I am concerned about the decrease in funding cap, because to me that indicates that it's an overall decrease in the clubs and societies program funding. So back in 2019, large faculty societies would have a funding cap of 8,000. That was decreased that year to 7,000. We were informed that it would drop for large societies to 2,600. For context, 2,600 is 2% of the Faculty of Engineering Society SUA's budget. Students have the right to know whether the USU is spending 300,000 on clubs and societies like they did in 2019, or if it's something like 150 or 200, which I think is what the number is closer to. I believe ultimately it should be up to the editors what they publish and what they do. Of course, if they do something terrible or egregious, then that's where the DSPs should be stepping in. But I am a fan of editors having the control over what they do and how they do it. I went to Manning Party. SUA actually co-hosted the event and helped promote it. It was very exciting to work with the USU on that, specifically some of the staff to make that happen. Also like that they are actually starting to work with student leaders and club and society execs to make that happen, because that's the kind of collaboration that I've been asking them to do for years. It was a very good time. Couple of small tweaks to make it that much better. Could have been a better outcome to have had like a $5 ticket or a $10 ticket, to have taken all that money and put it into making food and drinks cheaper. You wouldn't have had students outside waiting in the line for hours. People who do have tickets know, and they can just get processed, checked in, and go upstairs and have a fun time. As it turns out, the music at Manning, the audio system specifically, is only operated by plugging a USB in, and if develop a better music system so that song requests can be fulfilled.